What's going on, Nitro gang? For today's video, we have a vintage 2002 Smartech magic wheel. Now, I know you're looking at it and you're saying to yourself, dude, are you sure this is not a T-maxx? Well, maybe it's some kind of E-maxx, right? Because this obviously looks just like a Traxxas Nitro vehicle. I was able to find a very rare vintage Nitro. This is the very first, and I would say a very nice Traxxas T-maxx clone. In this video, we're gonna take a look at the chassis, talk about whether it's good, it's bad, the features it's got. Then I will fire it up.
You are so heartless, and you don't care.
Let's begin with an outside overview and tour. The most obvious feature is the body, and of course the chevron wheels. These are what make the T-maxx and the E-maxx what they were. When you saw these chevrons, you knew you had yourselves a Traxxas Nitro. Or of course it could have been the dual 550 powered E-maxx. This body is in fact from a Traxxas E-maxx. Unfortunately, I do not have the original Smartech body, but if you're curious to see what they would have looked like, here's a picture. They had a pretty radical and interesting looking retro design. Even when Traxxas was honestly coming out with things like weird graphics. I do like the color combination on this one. This one does not have the stickers, unfortunately. I'm missing the sticker decals for this particular body. But I gotta tell you guys, Smartech looked great back in the day. And in fact, they did have models that were the snap-on edition. These are also the original wheels. It seems like they are imitating the original Traxxas 5-spoke wheel design. Now these ones, it looks like they were painted by the previous owner or something like that. But in general, the rubber compound is good. I would say it's actually even softer and smoother than the old Traxxas T-maxx wheels from this generation. And guys, I have a good amount of T-maxxes, trust me. That's what makes this channel what it is. In the front, we have an actual Traxxas bumper, but in the rear we are still rolling with the original bumper. Why? I don't know. I just wanted to show that you can use parts from both trucks, right? We have the same dual style shocks on each suspension arm, and it's roughly about the same size as the old T-maxx. Let's take the shell off and check out the internals and the mechanical features of this particular chassis. From the top down view, you could see the heart, you could see the guts, and you could see the tiny cooling head of the 0.15 CXP engine with a very 90-degree looking header. This pipe is from the original Traxxas. The pipe, unfortunately, that this truck came with did have a leak. It was a two-piece pipe design. I have ordered an O-ring kit to try to fix it. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to run this Traxxas pipe. This might even be a Rustler pipe. Yeah, it might be from a Traxxas Rustler or something like that. Chassis layout is not that different from the T-maxx. We have the fuel tank mounted in the same exact position. I do love the included factory primer on this model. And yes, guys, the primer does work. The fuel tank does not leak. We have 4 AA batteries in the battery box. A regular servo mounted exactly how it would have been mounted in the T-maxx. Now notice they have an open spot here in the chassis. Well, that's because this is a very good clone, guys. They cloned the spot for the reverse servo. Sickening. This one does not have the reverse, but it does have a 2-speed transmission. Throttle servo is mounted also in the same position as the T-maxx would have been. Now this spur gear, it gave me so many headaches. I've done about 1 or 2 live streams on trying to figure out the spur gear. So this one is adapted from a Savage. That's right, guys, the Savage spur gear is almost a direct fit. You had to trim out the center a little bit, but it's fine now. The original spur gear was destroyed when I picked this truck up, but nonetheless, you cannot kill a Nitro, so we all know how that works. The only elements I am missing so far on this chassis, we have the front body posts. I am missing the rear body post. Now the good thing is, this is such a good Traxxas T-maxx Clone, guys, that the parts are a direct fit. In fact, if you notice these shocks, look how good the suspension travel is. This is some of the best suspension travel, I would say, ever. And there's a reason why. The reason is the previous owner has installed the Traxxas big bore shock kit. These are full aluminum shocks with titanium nitride coated shock shafts. The rear end is a little bit narrower than the front end. The reason is the previous owner has upgraded the suspension arms. These are in fact the Traxxas T-maxx or E-maxx Wide Max front suspension arms. In the rear end, we still have the old school Smartech ones. I think back when the old Pro 15 T-maxx was out, this would have been a one-to-one match in terms of width and stance on this truck itself. Otherwise, the way the bumper mounts is identical to the T-maxx. The underside, also almost a near replica of the T-maxx. We have a bottom exit exhaust here through the top of the aluminum chassis. We have skid plates front and rear, but you guys could see we have a transmission open here and a disc brake. Well, this actually came with a bottom skid plate, what Traxxas calls the center skid plate. I just have it removed right now because the design on this chassis isn't as awesome as Traxxas. So when you have the skid plate installed here, you cannot get access to the engine screws. Engine screws are here. Now these are all Phillips screws, yes. But I'll tell you guys, I have not stripped a single screw so far. I don't know how Smartech got the engine screws correct during this time period, but they got it correct. Here we have the receiver box. It was very, very spacious. For the testing during this video, I am using my FlySky GT5. I highly recommend everybody pick up this radio, 20 model memory, very good receivers, and it really just doesn't piss you off. Easy to use, easy to bind, and a fail-safe feature that always works. So we have original servos at this point. Let me show you what we got. I mean, they steer, guys. I know this isn't the best, but understand it's going through a very soft servo saver. I'll tell you from my memories, what I remember, the original T-maxx, when it had the stock 2018 servos, you could not even steer unless the truck was already moving forward like 2 to 3 miles an hour. So this is actually quite fantastic. Throttle linkage, as seen from the top view, is similar to the T-maxx, but this one sure does use a lot of different collars, right? Man, if one of these collars falls off of the rotary throttle lever there on the carb, it's not going to be good. I've thread locked some of them, so it should be adequate. The brakes are very powerful on this chassis, and I gotta say, access to the pull starter is incredible. Now, it's true that the old T-maxx came with an electric start, and that is what made Traxxas a very good, ready to run brand for beginners. This one, it's a pull start, nothing wrong with it. Check out how awesome the mount is. Normally the pull starts tend to be located like right next to the fuel lines, so when you're pulling it, you're tugging it, right? It's in the way of the linkages. The cord is usually like next to the fuel lines. It's very annoying. This one, almost not in the way of anything. I mean, this is premium design in my opinion. Smartech was the lowest of the lowest in terms of clones, but it was one of the first that wasn't afraid to copy a Traxxas. And keep in mind, guys, this is before Traxxas grew a lot of balls and started suing everybody, okay? Just ask the Arma Nitro, ask pretty much HPI, and they will tell you about the Traxxas sue job. Well, guys, should we do a little test start right now? Let's put some fuel in and fire it up. We'll start with about half a tank of fuel. The truck is standing on its side now, so it's might actually be less than half a tank. This might really be about 1/3. Let's prime it. The fuel line is right here. We'll watch the fuel. Oh, there you go, guys. I could see the fuel already. It's awesome. Nothing like a good primer. This primer tends to like get a little bit stuck there at the top, so I have to kind of push it out a little. Okay. There's definitely fuel in the motor. I heard it. It made a little bit of a squishy noise. Idle should be okay. Might be a little bit high. As soon as the engine starts, I'll lower the idle with the radio. How many pulls will it take? There we go. Not bad. Wasn't fully primed. There we go. Lowered the idle a little bit. Look and listen how great this motor is running, guys. 0.15 is all you need. Very good. I'm gonna let it warm up here a little bit. The pipe seems to be very good on this chassis. The stock one was unfortunately leaking. Gear mesh is also terrific. Let me spin the gears a little bit. Very good gear mesh on this. Gonna lower the idle. There we go. Settle down a little bit. This thing is purring. Cooling head is perfect. Look at that oil buildup. You gotta love knowing your nitros are running rich and loud. Guys, I know I sure love that. You cannot kill a vintage nitro, even if it's the cheapest ever, world's worst clone, the Smartech Magic Wheel. Ran about half a tank, no problem. Shut it down eventually to do a little recap here towards the end. Guys, I want you to take a look at how clean this chassis is. Now, normally, a lot of vintage nitro trucks, right under where the flywheel is, right by the crankcase, there's like a whole bunch of oil. This chassis, the seals are perfect. My adaptation of a Traxxas pipe has worked flawlessly. Unfortunately, I've had to use a zip tie. What can I do? Nothing I could do about that. Even the stock header, no leaks. I might upgrade this to a proper tubular high flow header in the future, but for now, I would say you can't kill a vintage nitro. For now, we've come to the end of this video. There will be a lot left to do. My body just fell. The body fell. There's still a lot of testing left to do. I have to determine whether the 2-speed engages. We have to tune the motor. But for now, I would say this was a successful vintage nitro restoration of a truck that most people didn't even know existed. And this is kind of what I base this channel on, guys. Making nitros great again, regardless of whether they were the worst of the worst, whether they are nearly killed or destroyed. Here, I enjoyed the restorations. I try to make nitros great again. If you support this channel, like what I do, please consider becoming a channel member and helping me make more nitros greater, much, much faster. See you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Soon, we're going to do a little top speed run and yell 2-speed, baby. We got liftoff. We got liftoff. if you smell what the Nitro gang is cooking.
So fine, but her breath is like, ooh. She say she wanna dance, but she don't know how to.